Serving as a mirror counterpart already to an existing stag beetle type is the high mobility mechanical stag beetle type KWG03R Mach Massive R, with a kit of radar sight, hammer, sword, biped legs, and the leg ability of Mirage, which grants the conceal effect to self when charging Metaforce. Now, it's essentially a mirror copy of Mach Massive, almost down to even the stats being identical. There really isn't a lot that needs to be said about Mach Massive R without branching into the actual Mach Massive territory, but for sake of coverage, he still does offer the exact same kinds of skills that not just the standard Mach will offer, but also any other conventional KWG of his series. Radar Sight is a support-based skill that will grant a 30% success bonus to himself and all allies. In addition, this will also remove any conceal or stealth effects active on the enemy's side that may possibly be used to hinder any potential strategies or sneak attacks that they might be planning against you. Now, contrary to how the standard KWG design works, Mach Massive R instead has his hammer on the right arm, which is a full AoE conventional melee skill. This means that upon attacking a target, it will damage all parts equally and spread the damage among them. This means that if a healthy target will take balanced damage to all 4 parts, an injured or somewhat healthy or somewhat damaged target will take it to, say, 2 or 3 instead. Now, it is also worth noting that if the enemy has conceal effect in play, the AoE damage will be all directed to one single part, which will make its damage a little more consistent in that rare instance. Mach Massive's R left arm is the sword that you normally see on the right, and as a conventional melee skill, its incredible balance means you can use it just about anywhere with no real drawback or penalty. It has no dodge or no defend on cooldown, very solid stats across the board, very high base success. It's a part that you can very feasibly and easily fit anywhere, thanks to its overall versatility and skill. Biped legs do also mean that Mach R also has very solid coverage across most terrains, and even though his stats across the board, as mentioned, are more or less identical to the standard Mach Massive, it is still worth noting here that his stats are just a little bit higher than what you'd expect of standard KWGs. With a mobility of 709, he is in that somewhat lower tier, but still in that nice sweet spot of where you want bipeds to be no less than. An evade of 1318 is really, really good though, as it means if he's not unable to dodge, he will have a relatively easy time dodging or even grazing a lot of low success attacks. A melee resist of 1092 means that he can definitely hold his own in close quarters moderately well, as you would expect of an infighter, but a shoot resist of 525 is definitely where he falls short, and this means that if you are going to use Mach or Mach R, you definitely want to exercise caution when fighting against anyone using long-range skills. His base damage across the board too is actually really good despite standard practice, I guess, and stat distribution, with the hammer at about 1460, almost 1500 there, means it is going to be a moderately decent strike even if the damage is spread, and a basic sword at almost 1200 is actually upper tier compared to where most other swords can be. Honestly higher than most standard right arms, which will make this a very easy part to use. The Mirage ability, also identical to Mach, does mean that the extra conceal effect to self means that any incoming damage that he is likely to sustain, he will have a moderately easy time avoiding or trying to keep it as low as possible, or even divert it for someone to come back and restore later. As a pure set store, for his very solid balance as a KWG, it is worth noting I do have to give him a 7 out of 10. Very solid stats, very good skills, and very flexible in his role. Base power, raw nuking may not be what he's designed to do, but he definitely has the speed and the overall balance across the board that you can use him very reliably anywhere, no matter if you use him as your conventional melee fighter or even just as a hybrid support. That being said, as mixed parts, I do have to rate him just a little higher at a 7.5 out of 10. Given that normally you would see a sword on the right arm and a hammer on the left, Mach R, on the other hand, means that you'll have a lot of really high flexibility when it comes to fitting his parts just about anywhere. So say if you want to go double sword or even something similar on the build, you can very easily do so and stay within the Stag Beetle type series. As I mentioned across the board, his stats are very solid, but it is also worth noting that if you have Mach Massive already, there really is going to be no major difference overall between the two. And at that point, it'll just kind of boil down to if you want to use them as a pure set, or if you want to build it for double sword or double hammer.